And hello, interwebs. This is Matt Orozco, and I'm always joined by the amazing.
Lowell Greenblatt. Thank you for that,
Oh,
sir. But
oh
since you asked
no.
me, I never get to give you an adjective. So the amazing Matt Orozco. Yeah,
Boom.
I like it.
See, you put the spotlight on yourself, and then you had to do the dance, but it worked
It,
out. I appreciate it, and we are back with another episode of Macabre Monthly, number 117, because I was very proud of myself for writing that down beforehand this time. And the seasons are changing. The sun is out, not everywhere, but in most places. And what does that mean? Well, that means we're talking about Scream Factory 4Ks, of course. Really,
obviously, gosh.
obviously. Not anything else like Jaws, the going to the beach, summer drinks.
Um, no, but we are going to discuss Pride Month a little bit and Pride horror
Yes.
movie. So I'm just Michael Scotting all over myself today. It's shameful. Anyway,
Well, before there was Michael Scott, there was Tobias Funke, and
whoa.
I
Oh, you're all. I said Michael Scott. Okay. That's my bar. Do I look like a never nude? Well, maybe I kind of
there
hope
are
I
dozens
do.
of us, dozens of us. Oh God, what
Wow.
there's a maybe we'll do a show sometime about how do great shows die early deaths, and we can absolutely talk about Arrested Development. But for now, we're talking about Scream Factory 4Ks we want to see. This is an
Mhm.
interesting one because, as most collectors have probably noticed at this point, Scream Factory has, in fact, been putting out a lot of their catalog in 4K, but they have, and even I was surprised because I initially told Lowell, I was like, oh, well, they're going to put them all out on 4K anyway. But then I started to look through all the Scream Factory releases, especially the collector's editions. I'm like, holy shit. At the rate they're going, we're not going to get some of these for another 10 years. So maybe sooner rather than
Oh,
later.
yeah. I mean, and we're well. I don't want to jump the gun if you in case you have anything on your list, but yeah, I do look at some of the Blu-rays and or some of the films that came out on Screen Factory through Blu-ray and got 4Ks elsewhere with nothing on them, and I'm wondering if we can ever get any of those back. But
Mm,
I think they're doing pretty good with their 4Ks, and I would like more, please.
yeah,
Just
more.
if this is the last dip, double, triple, quadruple dip, whatever it is, like fine by me. I don't consider them Anchor Bay, which was just like a slot machine every time. I will give them money. Just
Yeah,
do the things to make me give you money, and I'll do it. I'm simple.
yeah. No, we are rightfully addicted. They've got us. They're the plug, and we are the consumer. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, we're going to talk about Scream Factory 4Ks we'd like to see. We're also going to talk a little about Pride Month and LGBTQI plus horror. But before we get into that, we always like to talk a little bit about what we've been watching. So, whoa, what have you been watching?
Well, I rewatched a few of the Nightmare on Elm Street films,
Ooh,
which I love, obviously,
yeah.
because I talked to Bruce Seddon, who is creating a tabletop RPG based on Dream Warriors, and talking to him really got me in the mood uh, to go and watch some Freddy Krueger stuff. He really knows his shit in terms of RPGs and Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, to the point where like I'm doing a Zoom interview with him, and I'm thinking I don't need to upgrade to a pay mode. I don't need to pay for it. We'll be fine in 40 minutes. We were not, and I actually had to stop and be like, hold on, hold on, hold on. We're gonna run out. Can I
I'm
just like
doing something. Hold on.
yeah, I'm like I don't and like I don't know if like Zoom knows that you're cheating by logging off and logging on again, but it didn't, and I was able to capture uh, another part of the conversation. So we talked for a while. That interview's coming out. I rewatched one, four, and Freddy's Dead. And I
Interesting.
don't
So
know.
you didn't rewatch three.
No, I will get there eventually. I feel like 3 is one of those movies that I've just seen over and over and over again. So like, I know it by heart. It's like
Yeah.
in blood. And we talked about it for a while. So when talking about it, because the game is really sent, and we'll go into this when the interview comes out. The game is really centered on Dream Warriors, so it's like I kind of feel like I saw Dream Warriors a little bit. So I wanted to go and like rewatch the ones that sort of stem from that. And 6, because Freddy's Dead just brings me joy. I know it's not great, but it's what got me into horror in the first place.
But it's really entertaining because
Yes.
it may not be a good movie, but it is an entertaining one. And then when I talk about what I've been watching, I am going to die on a hill today for something that I never thought I'd die on a hill for.
Well, you already died a million times over for saying Child's Play 3 is better than Child's Play 2. So, if you want to just knock yourself further down the pegs in my eyes, that is fine. I'll let you do it.
I'm not even trying to be contrarian. I just like what I like, and sometimes I like
that
trash.
that we love trash. I mean, this you can't see the DVDs that are behind the screen at the moment, but yeah, so we die on a lot of hills as physical media.
I have an entire box of movies that probably vary in quality right now because Vinegar Syndrome is so good at making slipcovers that sometimes I'm just like, well, that looks like the coolest. It's the same logic that you had when you go into a video store when you were younger. That cover looks cool. That movie must be cool. And then most of the time, Vinegar Syndrome is just doing what video stores were doing, but doing it in a way that now you have to keep it. And second of all, it's a better way. It's a better way to make money than renting videos.
Yeah, God bless them. I have to go back to the archive too. I've got stuff to sell, and
I've
I
got
don't know if
wares.
yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode. Maybe I did, but I watched Final Exam on
Oh
Shutter for
no,
the
you
first
didn't.
time. It's man, that it's not quite Madman level. It's not quite like, I don't know if I'd put it on the list of like the best single entry slashers, because it's not a good movie, but it is amazing trash.
Yeah.
It's like if Chat GPT wrote a horror movie, it would be Final Exam. But in the best way. Not that I actually want AI to start writing horror movies.
No.
Um, no.
Pay
So
the
that,
writers, please.
please, all of them, Jesus Christ. Um, and so I watched that, and I watched The Boogeyman,
Ooh.
which was fine.
Is it the
It
scariest
was
movie you've ever seen?
It is not,
Okay.
but it is fine. Uh, my wife loves the short story, and she wanted to see it, so we saw it. I could have waited for streaming, and it was fine. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's weird to me why some Stephen King stories are adapted, and some aren't, and how some are adapted certain ways. I mean, as far as an adaptation goes, this was fine, but it's
Was this the
mid-level
story to
King.
adapt?
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it's like
why don't we get Richard Bachman stories on screen? Except for The Running Man. We obviously have a Running Man movie, which is fantastic and
it's the,
easily
the,
one of the best
the
movies
perfect
of all time.
Running Man movie. That adaptation, The Lawnmower Man, no one ever has to touch it ever again.
Actually, that's true. The Running Man movie is superior to the book in every way, simply because the book is just fine. Like the story, rather, is just fine within the
Mm-hmm.
context of, I think it's the Night Shift anthology. But the movie is exponentially better because of all of the scenery chewing that's happening from every single person in the cast, except for
Yeah,
Maria Conchita Gonzalez. Like she's just like, I'm playing it straight.
Alon-
Everybody else here is on cocaine. Alonzo, that's right.
yeah,
Shit.
yeah, from Predator 2. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's so weird to me because speaking of Night Shift, like Children of the Corn and Trucks, I think are two of some of the best horror short stories I've ever read, both in
The
Night Shift.
movies?
Well, no. That's what the short stories themselves are so good and so well written and are like almost perfect examples of short stories. But when it comes to adapting them, like, what the fuck happened? You know, like
Yeah, it feels
just
like the byproduct of these adaptations is like a byproduct of like inbreeding of some way. Like it comes out deformed and weird.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Bye.
yeah, like it's like The Hills Have Eyes. Like they're gonna go live in Nevada somewhere and kidnap Dee Wallace and her family. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest Stephen King fan. Not because I have anything against him or his writing, but more just his stories don't all connect with me that well. But I think his short stories are usually far more entertaining, and I think it's because I don't get sick of his prose. I think as quickly.
Yeah, you get in and you get out. Like
Yeah,
Trucks is like it's like what it's mostly what if world building. Like it takes place over like 24 hours, but the narrator's just talking about like they could do this, that this is how the trucks could evolve, this is what could happen to humanity. And then it ends. Like none of that stuff actually happens, but it's like here's a possible vision of the
yeah,
future. Here's some ideas I threw against the wall. So have fun. And for that, like it absolutely works. Like I don't know how we have like 12 Children of the Corn movies and none of them are actually good. Like I'm sorry, there is no good Children of the Corn movie. There's some great trashy Children of the Corn movie, but not an actual good one. And I think there is still a good one to be made out of that short story. But that was a long walk to water to say I saw the Boogeyman and it was fine. Um, yeah. How about you? What did you see?
all right. Well, I feel like I am the laggard always when it comes to new releases. So I feel like my list is like, oh yeah, that's really cool, Matt. Welcome back to present day. You're back in March still. So I watched Renfield, which because it was on streaming. I did not like this at all. And I think the reason I didn't like it is because it feels like this would be a really funny, like 15-20 minute movie, but it's a really, really bad long form feature film. And I think Nick Cage nails it. Like, I think he's great
Oh,
as Dracula. Like,
oh my god!
I could watch an entire movie of just him playing that role and just like a What We Do in the Shadows, except it's Nick Cage. In fact, if he's not on What We Do in the Shadows in this new season, I'm going to be kind of upset. That's the
Oh,
crossover we really need. But
for real.
Renfield, I just didn't. I think my biggest problem with it is also that it's like kind of like gives me flashbacks to the early 2000s when people were just, or like the late 90s when people were just putting CGI in movies. This had
Mhm.
so much CGI violence that it became not only obvious but really distracting. The whole subplot with like the crime thing, like that's stupid. This is
Yeah, the crime family as a whole could have just gone, and it just could have been like Aquafina as the cop. I like Aquafina, but
she's fine. I mean,
I,
I don't think she deserves all the hate she's been getting, but
no,
I
no, not
do. But
like
I think that a good movie would have been taking all of that stuff out, making Jean Ralphio a fucking vampire earlier on, and have him be like the rival vampire to Nicolas Cage's, and then Renfield's caught in the middle, right? Like there's a lot of good in there, but I think overall it's just because it just feels really like a studio wrote this. Like a studio thought this is a really good idea. Horror fans are gonna love it. And like some do, and like no discredit to those that do, like what you like, but for me it didn't hit. And then while I was scrolling around Tubi, I saw a cover for a movie called The Hoarder, which looked interesting, and I wish I wouldn't have watched it, but I don't like. It wasn't a bad movie, but it was also kind of another example of, oh wow, okay, this is a pretty good idea, but now you're fumbling it really badly. And essentially, the premise is this woman, Misha Barton, actually, blast from the past.
oh,
She
that's not getting a winner, but oh, she's
but she basically thinks her husband is her fiance is cheating on her, and so she brings her friend who's apparently a master thief, um, and they want to break into his storage unit. And then they break in the storage unit, they realize that there's other things going on in this storage unit place, but there's a bunch of different subplots. It kind of becomes a little bit of Cube and a little bit of like creature feature, and it's like, you gotta stick to something. So not a terrible movie, definitely better. Like if you're if you need something on in the background that you don't need to pay a lot of attention to, but is marginally entertaining at times, The Hoarder will do just fine. And
Cool.
next was Knock at the Cabin, which I fucking loved.
Ah,
I loved it. I was like, this. So I've never read the short story. I don't know.
oh no, it's a book, but the
Oh, the
book
book.
is,
Shit.
and it's, do you, I'm not going to ruin it for who's ever watching, but do you know how the book ends, like how it's different from the film?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you another time,
Yeah.
but it's, you're the only really positive opinion that I've heard about the movie, and it is a good movie and it is really well made. But the people who I've heard from who didn't like the movie loved the book, and I think
Mm.
there's for both of them. Like the movie literally zigs where the book zags, and it's like they sort of complement each other in a weird way. But yeah, having not being familiar with the short story at all, if you just went to that movie cold, that's a damn fine horror movie.
Yeah. And I think it also made me kind of ponder again that M. Night Shyamalan has been done a massive disservice by the film community at large because the guy has made so many movies in such a short period of time, and he always gets shit for throwing in a twist. But name me a fucking movie that doesn't have one. Like every movie has a fucking twist. Some are better than others, some are dumber than others, some are, but he's doing it, and his craft only gets better in a lot of ways. I didn't like Old. I thought it was a good idea that again kind of fumbles its way to an ending. But this was like Knock at the Cabin was really engaging. And I got to give credit to the actors because and how well they're directed. Like they're just everybody works. Everyone's believable. Things that could have easily been cringy come off extremely authentic and genuine. And Dave Bautista, if you don't
Uh,
win some sort of acting award by the time you pass, like it'll be a massive disservice because him and John Cena are the only examples of wrestlers who have done a good job moving into acting. I won't miss me with this Dwayne the Rock Johnson shit.
I it's funny you mentioned Dwayne the Rock Johnson, because I find that Dwayne the Rock Johnson and Matt Shyamalan are similar in that when they have good material, it's, baby, you got a stew going, to go back to Arrested Development. When M Night Shyamalan has like a good story
Weathers.
in front of him, written by him or not, he's gonna direct the hell out of whatever he makes. But if it's a bad movie, then he is gonna go into some shit. If it's a good movie, it's gonna be fantastic. With when The Rock has a good role, like he's hilarious in Central Intelligence. Like
I've
I
never
would,
seen it, but I,
it
I
was,
will give him. Jumanji was good.
yeah, yeah, and in both Jumanjis, like he's
Yeah,
really, and those are funny movies. But you know, give him some crap, and you're gonna get crap. I mean, Black Adam is just one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I have no interest in it. Like not only because like, it's such a tertiary character to me that I know nothing about it, and like it's just not interesting. But also like I just don't buy The Rock as a superhero because he already looks like an anomaly. It's like that's why Arnold Schwarzenegger never played a normal guy until like the 90s when he like it was just all right, we've seen him do every action movie possible. Now let's make him pregnant. That was it. We got Junior and the world was a better place. So I don't know about that, but in fact, I haven't seen Junior since the theaters. So there's a part of me that wants to go back and watch it just to see was it really as bad as it sounds? Because I don't remember
You
if I liked it or not.
you let me know. You let
It's a
me
real
know.
horror story. Arnold Schwarzenegger I'm trying to remember if they even ever solved the issue of how is he going to birth this baby? Was it a C-section? I don't know. But anyway, Knock at the Cabin was solid. I genuinely don't see why anyone would dislike that movie. Maybe the book thing, that makes sense, but moving that aside, like everything leading up to that, great tension, perfectly paced, doesn't overstay its welcome. Hits the emotional beats well, solid acting. There's a couple parts that are like, like once it gets to the end, you're like, I kind of see what you're doing here, but still a lot of fun. And then
Also,
recent,
when we log off, remind me to tell you really quickly what happens in the book. So it's eye opening, and I recommend the book too. Still a good read.
Is it a
And
long book? Like is it over
no,
300 pages?
it's let me pull it off my shelf. It is like 270, 280.
Oh,
Oh no,
perfect.
not 280. Yeah, like 265. Yeah.
That's my
It's
sweet spot. I can get through one of those in a week, but anything longer than that for some reason, like 400, that's when I start past 400. That's when I'm like, this is going to be a while. I don't know what it is, but um, one I just reviewed for the site, which is coming out on Shutter tomorrow, is Unwelcome. High recommend.
uh,
Um, it's it's a kitchen sink horror film in a lot of ways, and it's kind of a folk horror movie. It's kind of a home invasion movie. It's kind of a
kind of.
creature feature.
Mhm.
But it does something that most films that juggle too many balls don't do very well, which is it absolutely nails the landing and the ending. And it does so in a way that like when it first like there's one of those like, oh, you think it's ending, and like there's a prologue kind of component. And I kind of groaned like audibly. I was like, oh, come on. Like that was a great way to end this. And then yeah, it doubles down on something that makes it exponentially better. It's not perfect. It has quite a few flaws. It's beautifully shot, like the cinematography and the landscape of the. I'm assuming it's filmed in Ireland where it takes place, but if I'm wrong, it looks great. The music is great. There's some parts that don't really work, along the way, but on the whole, it's a lot of fun. And it's like, still under 2 hours. I think it's an hour 44 or something like that. So definitely check that one out. And
I will. And one quick thing I forgot, because that reminded me of my wife, because she's been reading a lot of Irish literature and she wants to watch Irish horror movies. So I remember that's about like the red caps, or like
yeah, is that a real
kind of
thing?
yeah, apparently,
Oh,
and like folklore. I don't know if their heads are red or they wear red caps. Actually, I don't know, but that reminded me. So my wife and I, of course, when we were little kids, we loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And one day she asked me, "What's Critters?" Because she's like, the only thing I know of Critters is like Raphael walking out of the movie theater in the first movie. And he's like, well, where do they come up with this stuff? And the movie you see in the background on the marquee is Critters. So I showed her Critters 1 and 2. So I rewatched Critters 1 and 2 for the first time in over 20 years, like easily since middle school.
the Scream Factory box
Um,
set.
no, Tubi.
Oh, okay.
No, because I don't need to own that Critters box set. I don't need to own Critters 3 and 4. I just don't. I told her there's 4, maybe 5 Critters movies,
I think there's
whatever.
like a
But like,
series that they did, like a TV show or something, like a web series that's
yeah,
on
and another like
another movie, sci-fi
streaming.
movie, I think.
Yeah, and the sci-fi movie. So, can you hear any music in the back? Are you okay? Okay, cool.
Yeah, no music.
So I showed her Critters 1 and 2, and they're so much fun. Like I forgot how hilarious. Like it's like really, really dark Gremlins. Like people say Gremlins isn't a horror movie, and Gremlins is a horror movie, but
It
I always say
definitely is.
it never felt like that to me because of Critters, because Gremlins felt like kind of like the wacky, almost safer version, but it's not really. It's a rip off of Gremlins. But man, rewatching them again, like I forgot that they talk to each other, and my wife is just laughing her ass off, and we just had a great time. So maybe I should pick up that box set. I don't know, but yeah, and Gremlins 2 is better than Gremlins 1 still.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Here, here. Even though and that's a testament to how great Gremlins 1 is, but Gremlins 2 is,
Oh, Critters. I mean, sorry, Critters
oh,
2 better than Critters 1, but I do prefer Gremlins 2 to Gremlins 1, even though Gremlins 2 is just like it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1. It's just like you want a sequel, here's your sequel, and
yeah, it's the
it's
biggest
great.
FU, but the most entertaining one of all time.
Oh yeah,
Uh, but you're right. Critters 2 is better than the first one. Kind of like Ghoulies 2 is better than the first one. And Ghoulies 3
sure,
is the best one of all time.
sure.
We should do a ranking of the best critter features.
Critter not.
or tiny creature features. I don't know. We'll find something novel to think of. But here's the hill I'm dying on, and it's not
Okay.
horror related. I watched Fast X. Holy shit!
I still haven't. I will get around to it, but you know, my friends and I used to go to like the Thursday night screenings of the Fast movies. We did it for like 6, 7, 8, something like that. And man, just send him to outer space already. Because
Yes.
I feel like there's like a ramping up in those movies to where like they started off sort of realistic and they got more absurd and ridiculous. And I find Fast 7 is the sweet spot where it's like it's just ridiculous enough that like you're having a blast and watching it, and Jason Statham is great and the beginning is great, but then after that it's like okay, yeah, just there's more family members, there's a submarine, it's just even for a franchise called like where we're at Fast X, it has swallowed its own tail at this point. So I'm like, I'll see it when it comes to HBO Max. But tell me how much you love Fast X.
Okay, I'm a notorious Fast and Furious disliker. My wife loves
Oh,
them.
oh, you're gonna die on the hill of Jason Momoa. Okay,
Yes, I am, because there is, first of all, he is having the time of his fucking life in this movie.
that's what I've heard.
And if you really want to know, like, if you really want to hear how great this movie is, listen to the "How Did This Get Made" episode where they talk about it live,
I always listen
because
to those as soon as I watch the movie. Yeah, because
because
they
it
do every
is,
one. Yeah.
yeah, it's so spot on though for this one. And there's even more, like, I'm pretty sure they could have talked about it for hours, but this movie is so absurd in every possible way, but it's also kind of reminiscent of the audacity of action movies of the 80s, where like physics don't matter. People are totally like in this, like, everyone should be dead, but nobody dies. Like, there's just so much that's happening. And my only gripe with it is actually it's just a little too long. Like, it kind of does a lot of rinse repeat up until its ending. But man, I think I have to go back and rewatch Fast and Furious, like from Tokyo Drift to like 8 or 9, just so I can, because I've seen 7. I think I saw 6 with my wife in the theater, but this
Mhm.
Fast X is probably, I wish I would have saw it in a theater. I wish that's a very rare. I would ever
I think
said that,
you
but I
if
was
you want.
laughing the whole time. I was laughing my fucking face off. I'm like, how is this ball rolling down Rome? Rome is not built on a slant. Like, what is happening? Like, uh nobody ever gets scratches on their face or cuts after massive car accidents or explosions.
I would go back and I'd start with Fast and Furious. I don't know, so maybe Tokyo Drift because of the Han stuff. But man, the opening of 7 is one of my favorite openings to a movie ever. That's the James Wan one, and it's like it starts off as a sort of
Is that the last
dramatic.
one with Paul Walker?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that one.
it starts. It's the first one where Statham's really like in it, and it starts off with him giving an impassioned monologue, and then you realize it's a oneer, and then it's an action oneer, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. When we're done, I'm gonna watch it on YouTube because it fulfills exactly what you're talking about with Fast X. But yeah, really curious if you could follow the comic book Byzantine plot of the Fast and Furious movies.
And one thing you'll know with Fast X is that this is clearly Vin Diesel, excuse me, trying to make himself be Jesus. He is essentially telling some sort of allegory in this movie. But the horror relatedness here is that there is a part, and I took this from the "How Did This Get Made" podcast, so I hope this is true. Um, that there's a part in the movie where Jason Momoa is painting the fingernails of 2 people he killed. They're just corpses.
Oh, I think I saw that in the Honest trailer.
And he's talking to them like they're having an actual conversation. And not only is it fucking hilarious, but it is so fucking dark and unexpected that like it makes him totally different in relation to like, so I guess the part that I took from the "How Did This Get Made" was apparently like the head of Universal was the only person who wanted to keep that in, and like they said, no, this has to stay in. And I think like it's such an odd thing to have happen, even though Jason Momoa's character is so outrageous and flamboyant. It's also possibly the best villain I've ever seen in an action. Like this is who Tom Cruise needs. Like I need Jason Momoa to play this character. And also his like he starts with a Brazilian accent and then he drops it within 15 minutes. Like there's so much to love about this movie. That and I can't believe I'm saying this about it either because I was very anti. I was like, oh, Fast X, groan, rumble, huh. But now I'm a believer. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was drunk, but
they are so much fun. You can skip Hobbs and Shaw because that goes kind of full sci-fi.
oh, we own them all, so they're all getting in. But I will say finally that I have to admit something that I'm addicted to Diablo 4 too, and
I've skipped that. I played Diablo Immortal, but like that's even enough for me. I feel like the Diablo series, if you didn't get in at 2 and started loving it from there, then you can't fully appreciate 3 and 4. That's how I feel.
As someone who was from the original all the way to in the second one being one of my favorite games, I am the person. I am the problem. It's me. But
you're the target audience. Nothing wrong with that.
But I gotta say this though, like Blizzard makes some of the best cutscenes in gaming. And the ones in Diablo, like if nothing else, watch just the cutscenes from all the previous games in this one because they're fucking amazing. And this is some of the best like fantasy horror I've ever seen ever. So, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm very much anti-series, but they really should make Diablo a TV series and make it dark as shit and just make it like the sword and the sorcerer, but not funny at all, and just like very much like our over the top gore, gross, like The Witcher meets Blizzard, you know. But anyway, that's what I've been watching and playing.
Yeah, I just picked up Resident Evil 4 used.
It's so good.
I'm like, I feel like this is a game. Like, I loved replaying the remake of 2, but like, I borrowed it from a friend, and I'm like, this is great, but I'll give it back to him. Like, I'm not going to pick up my own copy. But 4, I remember as being one of the best games ever. So now that it's on PS5, I'm really curious.
It's outstanding. And I took my time with that one because it is much longer than like the previous game. But yeah, Capcom has not been missing with their remasters, and I don't know if they'll do the rest of the series because the other ones are relatively new, but
we can stop at 4.
I liked 5. I liked 5. I'm an apologist for 5. I didn't play 6 because every time I tried playing it, I don't know whatever happened. Like for some reason, I just didn't keep with it. But 5, I will die on that hill as well.
And 7, and I still haven't played 8, but 7's great. Like
8 is so good.
That the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game comes out in like 2 months, and Resident Evil 7 felt like playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game.
Actually, when I replayed 7, it kind of felt like Lucio Fulci does the Texas Chainsaw Massacres. There's a lot of like eldritch horror type shit in that game, and a lot of it feels like it could have been like the house even looks like the Beyond like hotel a little bit. So I definitely picked up like whoever's making these games clearly has on the art and the creative side have a lot of inspiration from existing horror lore. And if when you get a chance to play 8, like as you're getting through 4, it's just well, as we always do, we have a website that we work with over here, macabredaily.com. Hey now. And whoopsie, meant to go to our front page here, but yeah, make sure to check us out. Cover some news that's happened over the past month or so, starting off with Hocus Pocus 3 is greenlit by Disney. I know you were a big fan of the second one. Better than we deserved.
Yep. Cool. Yep. Yes, better than we deserved. And if they want to keep going, power to them. I'm there. Let's do this. Same director, I believe.
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah,
so.
fine. So bring the ladies back. I'm ready.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's like I'm pretty indifferent to this, largely because it doesn't like I think the second one was a really nice nostalgia trip, but I feel like trying to do this a third time, like Halloween ends, like it's gonna be like we're trying to push it more movies than maybe we need for this. But hey, if it's good and people enjoy it, that's really what matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the second one sucked, I'd be like, no thanks. But I'm like, well, let's see.
You bastard, lightning will strike twice. So what
Yes.
I'm super excited about is this new Toxic Crusaders game that is coming out from Troma. Did you ever watch the Toxic Crusaders cartoon when you were younger?
I not only did I watch it, I had the action figures, and I really thought that this was the like Toxic Crusaders. Like when I found out Toxic Avenger was
Oh
a
wow.
and like kind of a horror movie, and it's just about him, and there isn't really anyone else. I was deeply confused, and maybe I shouldn't have been because, of course, I saw Ninja Turtles, but like I was just like Toxie, like the cartoon. What's happening here? And I still haven't seen the live action movies. I know I should.
You've never seen them?
No, I think
Oh
we've talked about
no.
this before. I know. I don't think I've seen a Troma movie all the way through. Um,
I mean,
yeah,
I
I know.
can't blame you necessarily, but
Not that I've been avoiding them. It was just never something that like I ever, you know, never really fell on my radar. But yeah, the TV show was fun. I'm curious to see how the game is going to stack up to say like Shredder's Revenge or the Scott Pilgrim game, which I feel are the models for this kind of thing. So,
yeah. I mean,
but you saw
I
coming to the Ninja Turtles game. I'm excited about that.
yeah, that I mean, I like that this we're getting these kind of coin op, side scrollers back, and we're getting them on some interesting properties. I'm a huge fan. In fact, I've actually looked on eBay a couple of times to see if I can buy like the old Playmates figures that they made because they're
Yeah,
just so cool and weird. And I wasn't like, what's his name? Fuck, what's the
uh,
villain's name?
Doctor
It's not.
Kill.
Yeah. And there
Yeah.
was also like a Duke Nukem in one of these, wasn't there? Like before Duke Nukem was in a video game, I'm pretty sure, or was that Captain Planet I'm thinking of? Fuck, I don't
Uh,
know.
That's a different. I think there was like a military style Duke Nukem guy, but I don't know.
Either
But
way,
yeah,
this is gonna be fun. It's gonna we've got a while. Looks like it's gonna be 2024, so I'll probably forget this exists till then, which is totally fine. New trailer for Joe Lynch's Lovecraftian horror Suitable Flesh. I have not watched this trailer yet, but I've seen this poster. Love it to bits. Love to see Heather Graham working again as well, alongside Barbara Crampton. Um, and it seemed to got pretty good buzz out of Tribeca. Have you watched the trailer yet for this?
yeah, looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of Stuart Gordon talk. How it's basically like because it's loosely from what I've heard based on the thing on the doorstep by Lovecraft, but really it's Joe Lynch doing his version of a Stuart Gordon movie, which sounds like fun. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'll check it out. I haven't really had my hair blown back by Joe Lynch. I like some of his movies a lot. Uh, but yeah, I was like, oh, cool, new Joe Lynch. So, and he's coming back to horror for the first time in a while in terms of filmmaking. So, yeah,
yeah. I'm trying to think like what has he done that? Yeah, I think I'm in the
Long
same
Term
boat.
2 and Mayhem are the are my favorites.
Okay. Well, he did Terra Firma, which I absolutely fucking love, and he also did Digging Up the Morrow, which is a great
No,
Irish horror
Adam
movie.
Green. That's Adam Green. But
Oh, why the fuck is it
they
showing
both
up?
have the same podcast. So he
Fucking
did
Google.
Everly, Point Blank for Netflix. Uh,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah,
you're
Raw
right.
2 and Mayhem with Stephen Young.
I
It was
did see Mayhem. Don't really remember much of it, but I think I liked it.
it was the better version of the Belko experiment, basically. Um, Yeah.
That I definitely remember and wish I didn't. But yeah, I'll definitely check this out. And anything, Stuart Gordon was probably. I was having a conversation with somebody else about this, that Lovecraft stories really aren't supposed to be adapted. And so when it's like Stuart Gordon was the only person that really got that and was like, okay, I'm just going to take the premise and I'm going to make my own movie with it. And
Yeah.
he had an aesthetic that worked for the material, balancing
Mhm.
humor, gore, and really interesting, like, kind of production design. And certainly something that what's his name, Richard
Richard Stanley.
yeah, Richard Stanley
Uh,
ripped off for Color Out of Space.
though I do like Color Out of Space as a Lovecraft movie. It feels more like a Lovecraft movie than a Stuart Gordon movie, I
Yes.
should say. But like I still like it. They're different. There's room for all kinds of
Yeah,
Lovecraft.
agreed. Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool is getting 4K unrated edition. Have you
I
seen
still
this?
have I haven't, but it comes to Hulu tomorrow. So
Oh, does it?
yeah, we have God tomorrow. This comes to Hulu. Unwelcome comes to Shutter. Joe Bob's back. Asteroid Cities this weekend. I'm gonna try and see No Hard Feelings at some point. It's
And Evil Dead Rise comes to HBO Max.
oh, that's right. That's right. Maybe I'll give that one another look. Did you see The Flash, by the way?
No,
Okay. I I
I
don't
really don't want. I As much as I want to see Michael Keaton as Batman, I have a huge problem with Ezra Miller and the way studios are just totally throwing his bullshit under the rug. Um,
they're bullshit. Yeah,
and I'm
I
also
know.
not like a very big Flash fan to begin with. Um, they looked interesting, but I'm just not rushing to the theater to see it. And I'm kind of glad it's bombing because
That's fair.
superhero movies are getting a little redundant.
Yeah. I just don't know anyone else who's seen it, and there's a joke that I really want to make to someone else who's seen it, but it's a massive spoiler for the movie, and I can't. So anyway, Infinity Pool. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. Brandon Cronenberg is he's what 3 for 3 so far. I think. Oh no, I didn't see Antiviral,
It's good.
but Pacifier was incredible. So yeah, maybe I'll like this, but I'm excited to see it. Haven't seen it yet. Good for him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look in to see if the one premiering on Hulu is the unrated version. That's kind of what I've been waiting for. Is I've heard that that this will be an unrated version, which is interesting to me. But two people have recommended it to me in the past 2 weeks, so um, maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's what that's my Friday's planned out. Next up, we got Robert Bloch's classic horror novel Psycho is getting a jaw-dropping limited edition. Have you ever read the book Psycho?
No, but I hear it's kind of different, and I've always sort of wondered how it was different. But no, have you read it?
No, no, I haven't. But oh, I knew this looked
Good though.
familiar. So Paul Mann does this dust jacket right here. Paul
Mm-hmm.
Mann's an outstanding artist. He's done a lot of film posters and does a lot of work now in the alternative movie poster scene. I'm not sure if I'll pick this up, but this is pretty. I like stuff like this. This is very cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Psycho. Next up, the best David Fincher movie of all time. I will only hear the argument that Zodiac is his best movie because there is objective truth there. But at a personal preference, this is my favorite David Fincher
I
movie.
just want to say that there are not enough assholes in this world who will ruin Fight Club for me. I know they're out there. I know they are in full force, but Fight Club is fantastic. But there is absolutely an argument to be heard that Seven is his best movie. Um, totally
He actually
fine.
has had a lot of really good. Like, I think he does not get enough flowers for how many great movies he's made. Even some of his lesser works, like The Game, are still really, really well made. They're just the
Yeah.
premise is just kind of a bit too silly to believe it. But yeah, Seven. This movie rocked me, and this movie still has, for my money, one of the best scares of all, two of the best scares of all time. One of them is something you see. The other is an allusion to something you see an image of, but your mind picks up. And it's I think we've talked about this before. It's the knife sex toy, where they
Oh, I
just
thought
show that.
bed, but yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that and the guy on the bed. Like that's one of the top 10 scares of all time. As good as the Exorcist 3, in my opinion, as far as like getting you. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm super excited for this. And it sounds like he's involved with this 4K, which is great because nothing like having the guy who made it signing off on it. So this is a day
Yeah.
one buy.
Mhm. I bought that It Follows Blu-ray. That It Follows 4K like ASAP. I knew it was second sight. I didn't even look at the special features. I'm like, I assume it's region free. If it's not, I gotta buy. This is my opportunity to buy a region free Blu-ray player. But yeah, speaking of day one buys,
The
can't wait.
4K is definitely going to be region free. Any Blu-ray
Yeah,
discs are likely going to be region
I
locked.
know it's region B. That's why I still won't get the Dawn of the Dead because the Blu-rays are not region free. But anyway.
Region free is you could get a great player for like less than $200. If you want some links, I'll send you some. And everyone's favorite summer sequel is getting a 4K release. I just rewatched the first one because I picked it up on 4K for like $10. Uh, and I hadn't seen it since it came out. It's not bad. Not bad at all. I do not remember this one at all. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember what the fuck happens whatsoever.
I rewatched the first one, and this one last year, and this one was better than I remember. Um, and I find it superior in a few ways to the first one, but the first one is Kevin Williamson. You can't beat Kevin Williamson, even though he's just taking a job. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to pick this up. I'm happy for the people who want this, but I'm good.
Yeah. I'll probably pick it up like I did. I know what you did last summer if it goes on like super, super cheap sale. Um, but yeah, it's definitely something I'm keen to rewatch. And I somehow remember this being a little bit trashier than the predecessor, but I don't know
Yeah,
if I'm misremembering some shit.
it's chock full of cameos. It's bloodier. Um, it's got unbilled Jack Black. It's it's something.
No. Well, I'm sure it'll be look and sound great in 4K. But
At the least.
well, that brings us to our main topic of the day. Well, first of two, I guess, we'll have a bit about LGBTQIA plus horror at the end. But with respect to our most wanted Scream Factory 4Ks, well, how did you approach your list?
I really went from films that they had already released on Blu-ray that they haven't yet released on the 4K, and I thought about the ways that they could improve, if possible, upon them. Like for example, for one of mine, like it would be nice if they can get like a commentary from the director, but maybe the director wouldn't want to talk about this movie necessarily. So I never know what they're working with. They work magic anyway, so I wouldn't demand anything of them, surely, but for like that could be kind of cool. Is where I really came from. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mostly tried to stick to things that they were already had out that haven't received their 4K treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have some opinions on the special features and like any additional content. Um, but I also wanted to include a couple of things that don't have a release, but would definitely be good candidates for a Scream Factory Collector Edition
Street.
4K.
You're on Elm Street.
Um,
4K.
uh, I have a feeling. So San Diego Comic Con is coming up next month, and they typically do their announcements at San Diego Comic Con or around that time. So I am it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility at this point, considering what they did with the Friday the 13th series, that they would also get access to Nightmare on Elm Street. But
They
who
had
knows?
already Jason on their like box set. there is a movie with Freddy Krueger on it that has a Scream Factory logo on its spine. So we're almost there.
Yeah, the foot's in the door.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that in mind, what is the first one on your list? I didn't rank mine in any sort of order of priority, but
Yeah, I didn't either, but I'm actually looking at two on my list right now, and one is, of course, the one behind me, Escape from LA, which Scream Factory put out, and then it got a 4K release, but with that wasn't even Scream Factory, with no special features. And the transfer for this looks fine. I mean, some of those CGI effects you just can't, but we all know that. And if you own it, you still love it anyway. No Carpenter commentary, which was what I was talking about before. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk about this one. I want him to talk about this one. I freaking love this movie, and in a lot of ways, I prefer it to the first one. When I saw it in theaters, I didn't. Well, here's the thing: I saw it in theaters. I loved it. I didn't know it was a sequel.
hmm.
I was in sixth grade. I had no idea. And then when I finally saw Escape from New York in college, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
at first, at first. So yes, obviously Escape from New York is a superior film, but Escape from LA still totally fucking rules. It's a lot of fun. You know, beef up that picture, give us more features and commentary. I just really want the commentary. That's
You
what's
know,
up.
I have a hunch though that you're right about maybe Carpenter not wanting to do a commentary for this because anecdotally, I think I've read and heard that he's not very happy with this movie. Um, or maybe just the reaction to it is so negative that he just doesn't want to talk about it.
I mean,
Uh,
he does. Screen Factory didn't put it out, but there is a DVD of Ghost of Mars where he does commentary. Like he will do commentary. I just, I don't know. I don't know why not this one, but that's me.
yeah. Well, I hear you. I also am a apologist for Escape from LA. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think it gets enough credit, even though it is essentially Escape from New York,
Yeah.
verbatim. It still has enough of its own kind of LA tint to it to make it stand out, especially Bruce Campbell's cameo, which I didn't know was Bruce Campbell for the longest fucking time, but outstanding. Just as always.
You know, one of my friends saw Bruce Campbell talk at a con like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was like, you know, really, my character is the star of Escape from LA because it's because of me that he has to escape from LA. And everyone laughed their asses off. He's a ham. We love our Bruce.
Yeah, he is his delivery is second to none. I must say. I'm gonna stick on the Carpenter train with this one and say that Big Trouble in Little China. This is probably like, if I'm really honest with myself, this might be my favorite Carpenter movie, and I think that's what I said during our Carpenter list because it's got everything that I love. It's got kung fu, it's got Kurt Russell, it's got crazy makeup effects, it's got things that don't make any sense, and it's funny and it's entertaining through and through. It's got one-liners, and it still doesn't have a 4K UHD release, in spite of there being a beautiful collector's box set that they put out. With the little vinyl insert, kind of like they did with Escape from New York and Prince of Darkness and The Fog.
Yeah.
But I'm genuinely curious why they haven't done this one yet. And if they do it, I really want them to pony up for an Atmos track on this thing. Like this deserves to have the best possible remix sound that it can have, because at this rate, I don't think we're ever going to get another Jack Burton movie. I know they've been talking about one for a while.
Yeah. It's not.
Chris Pratt was supposed to, I think, play Jack Burton, and I don't know how I feel about that. But he's probably got great delivery, but he's not a scumbag.
Yeah. It's so funny when I found out that Chris Pratt was playing Kurt Russell's son in Guardians 2, and I'm like, I bet the first thing Kurt Russell said to him was, "You owe me money." Like that's essentially what Chris Pratt is doing in those movies, and it's fine, it works, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just would love to see them do Big Trouble in Little China and give us the same. Hell, you know what I would even love is just have them do like a swap program where it's like, hey, we're just gonna send you a 4K disc, keep all that cool box and shit that you already have. We're just gonna send you the disc, make it like half as much money,
Mm.
better for the planet, you know. I'm here for that. So Big Trouble in Little China's mine.
Cool. My next one, Day of the Dead, which
Ooh.
is the last of the original Romero trilogy that isn't in 4K.
And one of the
Um,
first ones they put out, I think. That was like one of the first original, like
one of
10 or
the
15.
first. Yeah, and it's funny because Anchor Bay put out actually it was on DVD, but it was a double disc loaded with features, and I
Still
thought
have
that
that
was
one.
yeah, I thought that was the definitive edition. But then Screen Factory comes out with one, and it doesn't quite have all of the features, but like it looks great. It's got like a big ass making of, new commentary. I think like if you could just get one that combines both of them, and I mean, come on, it's gonna look great in 4K. You know, like I want my bub in 4K. We have Criterion did Night of the Living Dead. Second Sight did Dawn of the Dead. Give us the 4K Day of the Dead.
Yeah. And it's funny. One of the few films that I actually have kept the DVDs for has been both Dawn and Day of the Dead because they do have amazing special features.
I will
The
never
Ultimate
get rid of my
Edition.
edition. Yeah, I'll never. It's purely DVD. It's I can't imagine. I'd love to be able to replace it on my shelf with like a Blu-ray or a better version, but I'm never getting rid of that 4 disc beauty that
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
so.
I remember that was one of the first sets that I bought that I was like, wow, this is really amazing. Like what I was like, wow, what a time to be alive. This cannot life cannot get sweeter. Boy, was I
This
wrong.
2 disc Monster Squad DVD, of which the Blu-ray has none of the features, but yeah. So some DVDs you just don't let go of.
No, I'm here. I'm with you on that one. My next one is actually Trick or Treat. I feel like this is so ripe for 4K. And it's not old enough of a movie where I think they're going to have any issues getting any of the film elements. And
Mhm.
yeah, it feels like a perfect. They'd make a fucking killing if they even gave this like the Sam, like Sam pins or all the crazy, the extra slip covers that they do for some of these re-releases. So
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I think Krampus was actually the first 4K that Screen Factory released, so that would work really well.
yeah,
Like,
Is Michael Dougherty, right?
yeah, same
Yeah.
guy who did both. Yeah, which I still can't believe he did the Godzilla King of the Monsters. Like, I don't understand the leap from those to this. I'm glad it happened. That's my favorite of the recent Godzilla movies. Not that I am a Godzilla aficionado, but I watch Trick or Treat sometimes and I'm like, how did they see this and think giant monster? But anyway, um,
You know what it is though? Like he's able to manage multiple storylines in an interesting way that never loses the audience. That is
that's
what it is. And I think that that's the hardest part. Like hell, I actually have come around to enjoying Krampus quite a bit more. I still think it would work better as like a full-blown R-rated movie, but
yeah,
um still like I think that his talent is he's able to take really absurd ideas and ground them but make them really entertaining so that it's not like boring grounded. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if Godzilla, like the weakest part of every Godzilla movie is always the people. But they're absolutely necessary to the narrative because you can't relate to monsters that don't speak English or don't speak a language anyone understands. So you need them, but how you use them is like Shin Godzilla is the best example of how to use people effectively because they're kind of secondary to what's going on. And they're also their story they're telling for them is necessary, whereas like no human being is gonna stop fucking Godzilla fighting Mothra. Like just let them have it out. Just hope they do it over the ocean
that
like
dub fight.
adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of alien beings in the ocean,
Slither?
uh, no, not quite. Leviathan.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it's for my money the best Alien ripoff.
Better
Uh,
than Deep Star Sticks or Leviathan. You're going Leviathan?
I've never seen Deep Star Six. I love the VHS cover, but I think I got Leviathan as like a VHS. Like I got it as a gift. Like a family member realized I love horror movies, and I guess they saw it in a bargain bin or something. So they gave it to me, and I'm like, cool. I'm like, but what is this? But then I watched it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a great movie that I suddenly own. I just it is a carbon copy of Alien, pretty much under the sea, but it's a damn good one. It's a damn good one, directed by George P. Cosmatos, who did Tombstone and Rambo, father of the great Panos Cosmatos. It's gooey, it's weird, it's got a great Jerry Goldsmith score.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if like he ever thought, oh man, I like wasted a great score on that movie, but still, it's great. It pops. You got your Daniel Stern, your Ernie Hudson, and Peter Weller. Like, I just like that movie, and I feel like the effects will still hold up in 4K. Sometimes when you watch like an older movie in 4K, it's like, am I going to see the strings, the metaphorical strings? Like, am I really going to see the rubber? But you know what? If we see the rubber in Leviathan in 4K, I'm sure it'll be just as entertaining.
Yeah, I think it gives it some charm. And interestingly enough, that's how I got into Pantera. Is I had a family member who decided to get. They're like, oh, he likes heavy metal, and so they just got me like a Pantera CD for like a holiday. And I was like, I don't really know Pantera, but then
Oh,
I
but
put
you're
it on.
find out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like 5 minutes alone. I'm like, oh shit. So yeah, Leviathan would be amazing in 4K. And that's just a good popcorn movie. Like that's just one you just put it on, tune out, and enjoy, have a few laughs. Deep Star Six, I don't, I, it's secondary to that, but it's still a very solid aquatic horror movie.
Yeah,
Um,
we do a double feature of Leviathan and Deep Rising for Alien and Aliens.
and
All
Treat
right,
Williams. Yeah.
yeah, pour one out.
It's all right. I mean, and Dead Heat. I mean, I would just do it at this point. His body of work is sufficient enough in the horror genre. We could actually just do a Treat Williams Horror Fest in his honor, and probably line up at least 4 movies. Um, but anyway, I'm gonna cheat on my next one because it's gonna be 2 combined. I hope they kind of put these out in like a double set. But the Tales from the Crypt movies, I would love to see Demon Knight and Bordello, and I will not hear any arguments against Bordello of Blood. I still need to listen to the
Oh
commentary.
God, no! For even the commentary, did you listen to the podcast?
No, that's what I meant. The podcast. That's what I need.
So okay, it's called the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, and it just started to talk about Bordello of Blood, but it actually continued on with the Al Katz and Gil Adler bringing on Tales from the Crypt people to talk about the show itself. Like, it started with Bordello of Blood, and then they just kept it going. But the Bordello of Blood stuff is absolutely insane. Like, I would watch a movie about the making of Bordello of Blood. It's you gotta do it. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember you told me about this, and I clearly didn't remember the name, but I know I have it up on a Google page. So, but yeah, I
listen to
just love.
it.
I mean, I just love the living shit out of Tales from the Crypt, and especially these 2 movies. Demon Knight is clearly the superior movie, but still, they're just heaps of fun. They're just a really, they just bring you back to a time. Like, I'm actually looking at a Demon Knight poster right in front of me. Like, they just bring you back to a time when you would be watching HBO later than you're supposed to, and then you have these like really bad puns. And by the way, I saw John Kassir at Texas Frightmare, and he was doing like, I wish I had the patience to stand in his line, because he was doing like voicemails for people. I'm like, oh my god, that would be so fucking amazing.
Oh God,
Uh,
it really would be.
so yeah, I just love for them to put like a nice like double case of like these 2 Tales from the Crypt movies in 4K. Again, I don't even need necessarily new special features, although it sounds like this How Not to Make a Movie podcast would be an absolutely outrageous commentary for them to just like lay down a commentary track on top of this.
Yeah, I remember I listened to the Bordello of Blood commentary when I borrowed it from you, and it was good, but like it was entertaining, but like the podcast is that like multiplied by 100, just fantastic. So yeah,
Yeah, we need those in 4K ASAP.
yeah.
What's next on yours?
Next is the other one that I'm looking directly at, and that's The Thing, which, I mean, we're gonna get it. Like, we're not going to get it. I know that, but I want it. I'm ready for it. I
But
mean,
will we though? Because Universal put out their own 4K of The Thing.
well, but they did that before it came out on Blu-ray, didn't they? I mean, the 4K that they put out doesn't really have anything on it. I don't know if it's like the Escape from LA situation.
Hold on. While you're talking, I'll do a little because I have like 4 copies of the thing because the 3 copies because the Arrow version has features that the Screen Factory one doesn't, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Hold on.
Maybe I
Yeah,
should get
the only thing on the 4K actually is the commentary with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, which is on the Screen
the
Factory.
regular DVD. Screen Factory
Um,
more commentaries.
yeah, it
Yeah, no,
has it has one with Dean Cundy as well. And
yeah,
then there is a outtakes, and then there's also the thing, the Terror Takes Shape documentary. Um,
that was on the DVD.
yeah, it was on the disc too. So it's not definitely not the same level. And I think that's largely because I think Scream Factory owns the like when they produce their own materials, they own that stuff. So it makes sense that Universal wouldn't have it on their own 4K unless they want to buy it off them. But um there is that is something that's happening now is that like the studios are catching wise that oh shit, people are paying money for old movies in better qualities. Um which is somewhat of a threat to our beloved boutique labels.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like the thing is like one of their crowning achievements, and I don't. I mean, I don't know. It would make sense if Escape from LA stays on that regular shitty, well not shitty 4K, but like with no features or anything. But I feel like there's going to be demand for a really good quality 4K of the thing, especially when they already put out 4Ks for They Live. I think we're getting Precinct 13, The Fog, Prince of Darkness. I mean, I know it is one of the marquee Carpenter titles, but it is. I don't know.
You know what I'd be really pissed about if they do is they make like a Carpenter box set of all 4Ks after they release all of them individually. I will be so mad.
I don't think they're going to do that. They mentioned that on a podcast. Like, yeah, Carpenter box set, but like I don't think they have the rights to every single Carpenter film. And also, like, how would that work with Halloween and all that? But I don't know. We'd buy it. Who are we
I
kidding?
mean, Arrow does that with their Giallo Essentials sets. They basically took all the individual releases and just put them into box, which is a great deal if anyone hasn't picked those up before. And they look real nice, kind of like the Vinegar Syndrome ones. But one thing, I mean, pointing out timing wise, this is the 41st anniversary of the release of the thing. So we missed the 40th year last year for any sort of thing. So usually these happen in like some sort of milestone. So we're coming up on 45 and 50 over the next 10 years, which but will like I saw Peter Maloney at a couple of conventions this year and he's not all there faculty wise and he definitely looks like he's aging. Carpenter also is not getting any younger. So I think there's a finite window with some of these folks
Yeah.
to get new content or commentary. But I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah.
Like imagine if they did what Waxwork did with the thing vinyl, like where you crack it open like ice, and that's kind of the box for the thing.
Yeah. That would be cool. I don't know how big Scream Factory would be on packaging, but I get it.
Yeah.
What's your
Um,
one?
so I have 2 more and you have 1 more, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here's where I'm gonna start to deviate a little bit from what's already readily available. I know Arrow put this out before, but maybe the rights have changed hands since then. I would love to see a Hellraiser box set. And you know what? If they want to give me all of the Hellraiser movies, I'll fucking take them. But I'll also only take the first 4. That's really all I want.
I think that's all anyone really wants. But yeah.
But I will take a full on like compendium of Hellraiser films at this point, and especially getting the 4K UHD treatment. And if nothing else, give me Atmos tracks on at least the first 4 movies. I'm going to be a bit more kind. At least the first 2 movies.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
give me a 4K, give me an Atmos track with those. The third one, I would love to see it, and I'm a big Anthony Hitchcock's fan. I think he does not get enough credit. But yeah, the Hellraiser films just mean a lot to me. In fact, I'm getting my first tattoo on the 1st of July It's a Hellraiser tattoo.
Nice.
Um,
What can you tell the people at home what it is, or do you not want to say it?
yeah, I mean, it's I don't know where I'm going to get it yet. It's either gonna be my arm or my back, but it's essentially the puzzle box, the lament configuration. It's opening up, and the chains are kind of coming out, like stuck to either my skin or kind of wrapped around it. And it's just going to say we have such sites to show you below that.
Nice. Actually, my wife and I got our first tattoos not even a month ago. She got hers on our honeymoon, and I got mine like a week later when we were
Congrats! I saw yours. It was like the hat. The
the Merlin hat because my dog is
yes.
Merlin, and there's a little spark, a magic spark at the end of it because I had a dog named Sparky growing up. So yeah, but I might get some band logos, but nothing too nuts, like nothing really shaded. But that's a whole. Um, yeah. Uh, I guess my last one is Death Becomes Her, which I didn't pick
Ooh.
up initially because I'd never seen it, and I know it has a following, but then I watched it like last year, and it's fucking great.
So
It's like
good.
it's like the last Zemeckis movie I think before Forrest Gump. Dean Cundy is the DP, and it's just Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn just out bitching each other with
With
supernatural
Simp
elements.
Bruce Willis.
Oh my god! And just dumbass Bruce Willis. It was like it's a lot of fun. Like it deserves like cult status to the level of like Drop Dead Gorgeous, and it's I think it's a little lower on the cult totem pole than that, but I just loved it. I'm like, yeah, I guess it's still in print, but give me a 4K. I want to
Oh
see that
yeah.
movie.
That
Yeah,
movie and the effects in that movie are so much fun too.
yeah,
And they still look pretty good, as far as time is concerned. And it's just such an odd movie. Definitely kind of queer coded as well. Like there's definitely like a campiness to it that you get from but man, that's a fun movie. I remember it used to be, I don't think it did very well either. I think it flopped pretty hard if memory serves. But it's one of those movies that I agree with you. Like if people haven't seen it and they were to go back to watch it now, they'd be like, why is no one talking about this movie? It's
yeah,
so absurd and fun and just dark and insane in the best way possible.
for real.
When speaking of insane the best way possible, my last pick is absolutely that. It's Freaked, the Alex Winter movie. This there's parts of this movie I know that have not aged well, like kind of like The Pest. There's like some humor in it. It's like that like, but there are some also like some humor that has aged really well that is hilarious, like the Rastafari's fucking hilarious. Ricky Coogan deserves better than this. Um, but I did ask Alex Winter if there's going to be a Freak 2, and he's like, no, nobody wants that. And I'm like, I want that. I want it.
Some of us really want that.
Yeah, I think he probably it. I got the sense, and this is me alluding rather than knowing for sure that this was probably like a really difficult like film to like think about.
Yeah, and make I would imagine too. Like God, how much like even just thinking about his makeup job, like I'm like that must have been nuts day after day. But yeah, it's
But
hell of a movie.
it's a perfect like time capsule film of that point in the early 90s where like MTV had totally taken over everything and every like movie was made into some sort of weird music video and like all this like weird experimentation. Like Freaked is just it's not a good movie, but it is a really really fun one and it deserves and I think the last time it was on, I still have the DVD because I don't think that there was a Blu-ray release, or if there was it's long out of print.
Uh,
um but and I can't imagine why either, because they've released vinyl, like they've released the soundtrack on Mondo did a release on vinyl of the soundtrack. They've seen licensed shirts for it. So it's like, where's the 4K?
yeah, it would sell.
It
It's definitely
absolutely would. Hell, if Vinegar Syndrome put like the finesse on one of those like amazing embossed covers they did, I mean, look what they did with Showgirls, which I
I
can't wait
still
to
have
watch in 4K.
yeah. and Roadhouse. Oh my god, their
That's my
Roadhouse.
favorite release they've ever done.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking spectacular.
And Roadhouse, like what would be like, it's so close to being a horror movie sometimes. It's like kind of like Indiana Jones. And it's like, oh wow, a heart-ripping scene. Yes.
Throat ripping scene. Yeah, just uh god, that
Well,
movie. I'm gonna watch that again.
I know
Um,
you can always ball's so big he comes and fills up dump trucks. Like there's just so much about that movie that just works so well and could not be repeated because Patrick Swayze is everything in it.
yeah,
But if Scream Factory, if you're listening, these are the things we want. We're not, these aren't difficult asks. Maybe they are. But what I will say is, this is the kind of the thing I started this off with, which was I I understand a little bit more about why we're not getting certain things or why certain things have seemingly limited sets of features or updates. Um, and while I understand why, sometimes you don't have access to the right material, sometimes the rights are mixed up somewhere else or whatever, I really think it's worth it for them to just please give us at least upgraded audio tracks. Please, please. Like make this be potentially the last time we have to buy it. Um,
yeah.
because physical media is it's still alive and thriving, but I don't think
But
that
it
will
died.
persist.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it will die someday. Or we'll kill ourselves before that and like whatever, we'll all be fighting to get on Mars, but get to Mars, which by the way, if you haven't watched Total Recall recently, still top tier for Verhoeven.
I saw it for the first time a few years ago. I
What
just
did you
like
think?
missed it. I was like, wow, I was actually really impressed that a movie like this got made at the height of Arnold Mania. Like it's still very much an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but like they still have those weird, quirky Philip K. Dick stuff about it. Like Paul Verhoeven kind of understood the assignment on both ends, the Arnold movie and the Philip K. Dick movie. And it's like a weird mix of both, but it absolutely works.
Yeah, there's Arnold. I don't I remember reading some or listening to something about Total Recall and Arnold's involvement, but essentially it was like he wanted to do it and they wanted him to do it because if you take Arnold out of that movie, it's not a good like it I he doesn't make the movie it's a good movie, but if you take him out of it, it loses something really, really important. And I don't know who you would ever replace him with in that role because and like unlike The Rock, I can actually believe that the Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie is just an average guy. He might be a big average guy, but
Mm-hmm.
he still pulls it off a lot better than Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Anyway, I've said my piece.
I say good day.
Yeah.
I yield my time. Fuck you.
Yeah. Well, as it is nearing the end of the month in June, it is Pride Month, and we are big supporters of inclusivity here. And I unfortunately live in a state that is doing a very good job of attacking trans rights right now. The recent bill that passed our house around banning trans athletes in female sports. We're not going to go into that today, but needless to say, if you live in the great state or not so great state of Ohio, please do what we can to not let that happen. But in honor of the month, figure we'll talk about, what do you think? Maybe like a couple of our favorite LGBTQ horror films? How many do you have?
I mean, I didn't come up with five, but I could talk about. I have a few.
Let's
You
two
go
each,
two each.
top two, or maybe well,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be top two, but just two that we're really big fans of.
yeah. Um,
But I
it,
can certainly kick it off.
yeah. Kick it off.
Okay, so the Knife Plus Heart. This
Oh,
is a French giallo, um, very much like, and it features non-binary actors. The premise is around gay porn, the gay porn industry in France. It's just a really slick, cool looking giallo film, like, and it works in every possible level. It hits the tropes right. Um, it's one actually I've been meaning to go back and watch, and I believe that forget his name, but the creative head of M83 did the score for it as well. Um, we're blanking on his name, but yeah, absolutely stunning looking film, really entertaining, really violent, very and much better homage to Giallo than Malignant.
Interesting. Um, Mine, I would say, which I actually was disappointed of lately because I was so excited when this was announced by Second Sight, and then I realized it's not a 4K; it's Region B. But May, which isn't necessarily about a gay woman, but it is absolutely queer coded, and there are some queer moments. But she's just someone who's like reaching out to try and find connection, who's like uncomfortable with herself and is just trying to make a friend that she can't have. And it's, it's not so much overt as it is just like coded throughout. Well, I guess it is overt in a few places with uh, a performance from Anna Faris that we haven't seen before or since. And it's like watching Marlon Wayans in Requiem for a Dream. It's like you've never really seen that before or since, but it's just a reminder that he can do
It's
that.
true.
That, but yeah, yeah, May from 2002. Please give us a U.S. release soon, please God.
I love May is so tragic too. It's such a sad movie. Like the ending is so sad.
And it earns it too. Like I feel like most other movies, like the last shot would never, like no one would ever put that in there, but May does, and it absolutely earns it. It's just, uh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that movie. I'm definitely picking up the Second Sight version just because I think it's gonna get the treatment. And by the way, they are absolutely slaughtering 2023 in relation to boutique labels. Like I don't think anyone is even coming close to how good of quality they're putting out this year. The Martin set's unreal. The Lake, I think Lake Mungo came out last year, but
And they're doing Crimes of the Future too.
which
The
I'm
crazy.
excited to like. I'm excited. I enjoyed that movie quite a bit, but I haven't rewatched it since I first saw it. So I'm super keen on that. Uh, my second one is one that I didn't like the first time I saw it, but every time I watch it, it kind of grows on me a little bit, and I think it's largely due to the music and the actual just look of the film. And it's Daughters of Darkness. This is like the most lesbian vampire film of all time, but it's not like but doesn't have the same male gaze problems that the average vampire lesbian movie does. Essentially, kind of a telling of the Elizabeth Bathory, a version of that story where the women are absolutely in charge and the men are just completely oblivious and ignorant to what's going on around them. Um, but this is just a really beautiful looking film. Like it's just one that even if and it's a bit slow, I think that's why I didn't connect with it at first. But the more I watch it, the more I appreciate just what's going on. The Hunger owes quite a bit to Daughters of Darkness in relation to kind of the tone and the content. Um, and I'd argue it's be a great double feature to put those two together.
Um, I will say I almost considered Freddy's Revenge, but I kind of, it got a lot of love in the queer community. But I remember once I heard on a podcast Brian Fuller, gay horror icon and horror writer, hi Kitty, who's show running the Friday the 13th show coming up. He said, like, I don't really like that movie. I actually find that it's deeply homophobic. And I was like, what, really? But it's like the gay Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, it's beloved. And I watched it shortly after he said that, and I was like, I I mean, he kind of has a point. He kind of, but it kind of colored my viewing of it a little bit. I mean, I'm still a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, and that movie's weird, wacky, and I love it. But I wouldn't put it as an example of like a good pride horror movie. But instead, I'm going to go with really, really underrated title from a few years ago. This one like sat on my queue for a long time because it was just one of those where you're like, I'll get around to it. and then I got around to it, and it was fantastic. I think it was put out by Scream Factory, but with no features. Colin Minahan's "What Keeps You Alive." Are you
Ooh,
familiar with?
no.
Um, newlywed couple or their fiancés. These, I forget which, but it's two women who go away to a cabin, um, and one of them like starts to see their partner a little bit differently, and it becomes like not quite a slasher film, but like a chase
Cat and
survival.
mouse,
What?
like a cat and mouse type movie.
Yeah, kind of, but like really good and really well done, and just really surprising. Keeps you on your toes, and I was just like, this is great. Like, why aren't more people talking about this? And apparently the director was gonna direct a new urban legend. Like, it was announced a while ago, but I haven't heard anything. um but I was like, yeah, I think he did like extraterrestrial, which I haven't seen. But I was just really pleasantly surprised. Um, yeah, and there is like, a lesbian villain, but I don't think it's too tropey and too exploitative. Like, it feels like, you know someone like May with real mental illness who has people in her crosshairs. I highly recommend it. What Keeps You Alive? I forget what year it's from, but yeah.
So as soon as you started talking about it, I remember exactly how I've heard of it. I was doing an Instagram live, and we were doing some like under like hidden gem movies, and this was one that somebody recommended. So I'm gonna have to check that out because again, when two people unrelated tell you that a movie's good within a short period of time, that must mean something. So that's a solid one. And then I just a quick comment on your Nightmare on Elm Street 2, uh, um, on the film rather, is I agree with what Brian Fuller said, and I think, but I also understand why the community reclaimed it more. I think it's more of a
Yeah,
reclamation than it is kind of a celebration.
yeah.
Um,
There was nothing else really like it at the time, and people sort of glommed onto it, but there was enough that made people want to glom onto it. But really, like, the people who made it had no, I don't think they really had any idea. Maybe the writer was like, oh, well, like AIDS, and if you're scared of your sexuality, but I don't think there was any specific intent behind it. But yeah, you're right. It's a reclamation rather than a celebration. It's a great way to put it.
I mean, I do think that like it's because you seen Scream Queen?
Oh yeah, I own
Yeah.
it.
So like it's like I think that there was some. I don't think it was necessarily really conscious intention to make something homophobic, but
Mm,
the person who wrote it, I forget the man's name. He
David Chat.
It took him a really long time to admit that he could even see why someone would be upset by this, and
Mm,
that to me reeks of I didn't do anything wrong. Even though he deep down I know I did, but I'm going to tell people I didn't. And there is a lot in there that is it's kind of like cruising in the way that like and you could look at it as being this very kind of counterculture film that celebrates the gay community, the gay male community, and makes them kind of the focal point of a film, a narrative, not always in the most positive light. But you could also look at that film, this and cruising, and say, yeah, this is like there's a lot that you could read into about this that would lead one to believe that this was made with some sort of opinion about sexual orientation. And I think that
mm.
there's definitely some of that, like the whole like the coach goes to the. I think it was played for laughs more than it was played for like serious and malicious intent. But I think in
Yeah, we never
making
learn
a
about your life, but yeah.
yeah, like if you're trying to make a joke of somebody, then you have some, you're not being altruistic in that intention. You're trying to degrade, you're being derogatory. Whether you think you're being overly so or not. But
Mm.
I do think that there's a lot of like it's a good example of a movie that, and if anyone's not seen Scream Queen, fucking go now and like
Oh,
watch
great.
that. It's because you also get a chance to understand like how much of an impact this had on the actor's life, on Mark Patton's life, and how he didn't really get any. This didn't make him a star, In fact, it did quite the opposite, and I think that that's quite unfortunate. But definitely a reclamation. What keeps us alive is definitely going in my queue sooner
What
rather
keeps
than
you?
later. What keeps you alive? And for anyone celebrating, whether you're part of the community, you're an ally, happy Pride. I hope you're celebrating safely. I hope you are in safe environments. People are fucking crazy these days. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and take
Have
care
fun
of
out
one
there.
another. Have fun out there. Be make
Yeah.
make good choices, but not ones that it's okay if you might regret them later.
Yeah.
Safe
But he
regrets.
Safe Regrets, the title of my autobiography.
Uncalculated risk. That's where we're going there. But I think that's all we got for this month. So as we do at the end of these things, which is always weird to stick our landings, it's be good, happy Pride, stay safe, and above all, watch more horror movies.
Watch more horror movies.
Adios.